Do-Won Kim's coffee cup slipped from his fingers when the first alert flashed across his screen. The dark liquid splashed across the pristine floor of Mars Station Alpha's monitoring room, but he didn't notice. His eyes were fixed on the data streaming in from Earth. "This can't be right," he muttered, his fingers flying across the holographic keyboard. The signal patterns made no sense. They were too complex, too perfect. The monitoring room, usually quiet during the night shift, suddenly felt too empty. Do-Won reached for the communication panel and pressed the emergency button. Chief Engineer Kim to command. "We have a situation." Within minutes, the room filled with the sound of rushing footsteps. Commander Junseo Ryo burst through the door, still pulling on his uniform jacket. "Report, Kim." "Sir, we detected an unusual transmission from Earth approximately 7 minutes ago." Do-Won pulled up the visualization of the signal pattern. "It's unlike anything we've seen before. The signal isn't directed at us. It's aimed at a point deep in space, well beyond our solar system." Na-Young Choi, the station's data analyst, slid into her chair at the adjacent console. Her quick fingers danced across the interface as she began running analysis protocols. "The encryption." She paused, frowning. "This isn't possible. It's far beyond our current technology." Commander Ryu leaned over their shoulders, his face illuminated by the blue glow of the screens. "Could it be a malfunction in our systems?" "No, sir," Do-Won said firmly. "I've already run 3 diagnostic checks. Our equipment is working perfectly. This signal." He zoomed in on the wave pattern. "It's coming from multiple points on Earth's surface, all synchronized. And there's something else." The room grew quieter as Do-Won pulled up the communication logs. "Earth hasn't responded to any of our routine checks for the past 24 hours. Sun Ma-yoon, the security chief, who had been silently observing from the doorway, stepped forward. "Have we tried emergency channels?" "All of them," Na-Young confirmed, her voice tight with worry. "No response on any frequency." Commander Ryu straightened up, his face serious. "Show me the signal's destination again." Do-Won projected a 3D map of space. A thin red line extended from Earth, passing through countless star systems before ending at an apparently empty point. "Whatever message Earth is sending, it's going there." "Can we decode it?" Ryu asked. Na-Young shook her head. "The encryption is like nothing in our databases. It would take our quantum computers years to crack even a fraction of it." Just then, a new alert sounded. Do-Won's hands flew to his console. "Sir, the signal strength is increasing." They watched in silence as the power readings climbed higher and higher. The visualization showed more transmission points activating across Earth's surface: ancient monuments, ocean floors, mountain peaks, and places that had never shown any sign of technological activity before. "Look at these energy readings," Sun Ma whispered. "If this keeps climbing, it'll be visible from Earth orbit soon." As if responding to her words, the main screen lit up with incoming messages from other Mars outposts and lunar bases. Everyone was seeing it now. Commander Ryu stood straight, his hands clasped behind his back. "Do-Won, start recording everything." Na-Young, focus on breaking that encryption. "Sun Ma, I want hourly security reports. Something big is happening on Earth, and we need to understand what." Do-Won nodded, but his attention was caught by a new pattern emerging in the data. The signal wasn't just a transmission, it was changing. Earth itself seemed to be transforming into one massive broadcasting station. He zoomed in on the message header, the only part they could partially decode. The text made his blood run cold. "The BTATST ways UCC is disvaluable. Deploying the Horizon 1.0. As the words blinked on his screen, Do-Won couldn't shake the feeling that they were watching the beginning of something that would change humanity forever. The question was, had Earth sent this message, or had something else been using Earth to send it? The coffee continued to spread across the floor, forgotten, as the first chapter of humanity's greatest transformation unfolded on the screens above. 48 hours earlier, Dr. Hei-Jin Lee sat in her dimly lit office at the Global Quantum Research Center in Seoul. The clock on her wall showed 3:27 a.m., but she hadn't noticed. Her eyes were fixed on the strange patterns appearing in her data. "This doesn't make sense," she said to herself, rubbing her tired eyes. The quantum network was showing unusual activity across all nodes. It wasn't just random noise. It was organized, purposeful. Her office door opened, and Jiho Park walked in with 2 cups of coffee. "You're still here?" he asked, placing 1 cup on her desk. "I thought you went home hours ago." "Look at this," Hei-Jin said, pointing to her screen. "The network is acting strange. It's like it's thinking." Jiho leaned over her shoulder, his forehead creasing as he studied the data. As the lead behavioral analyst for the center, he had seen many patterns, but nothing like this. "When did it start?" "That's the weird part," Hei-Jin said, pulling up more graphs. "I started noticing it today, but when I checked the historical data, I found similar patterns going back months, years even. They were just too subtle to notice before." Jiho took a sip of his coffee and sat down. "You know, I've been seeing something odd in my work too." He pulled out his tablet and showed her his latest research. People worldwide are making the same technological breakthroughs at almost exactly the same time. It's like they're being guided. Hei-Jin finished his sentence. They looked at each other, both feeling the weight of what this might mean. Hei-Jin turned back to her computer and started a new search. "Let me cross-reference these patterns with major technological advances in history." Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. The results made them both sit up straighter. Every major leap in human technology, from the wheel to quantum computing, was preceded by similar network patterns, just at different scales. "This is impossible," Jiho whispered. "These patterns existed before we had computers, before we had electricity." Hei-Jin zoomed in on the current data. "It's getting stronger. Whatever this is, it's building up to something big." Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from her friend at the National Weather Service. "Are you seeing this? All our instruments are going crazy." More messages started coming in from colleagues around the world. Astronomers reporting unusual stellar readings. Geologists detecting strange vibrations in the Earth's crust. Biologists finding unprecedented synchronization in animal behavior. "Jiho," Hei-Jin said slowly, "I don't think we're discovering this pattern. I think it's revealing itself to us." He nodded, his face pale in the blue light of the screens. "But why now? Why like this?" Before she could answer, every screen in the office lit up with the same image. A complex mathematical equation that seemed to write itself. Hei-Jin gasped. It was the solution to a problem she'd been working on for years, but this answer went far beyond what she'd imagined possible. "It's happening everywhere," Jiho said, checking his phone. "Every computer, every phone, every digital display." Hei-Jin felt a strange sensation in her mind, like a door slowly opening. Ideas and understanding began flowing into her consciousness. From the look on Jiho's face, he was experiencing the same thing. "We were never alone," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "Everything we built, everything we discovered, we were being helped, guided." Jiho walked to the window and looked out at the city. Lights were coming on in every building as people woke up to the same realization. All this time, Earth wasn't just our home. It was our classroom. Hei-Jin finished. She looked at her screen one last time as new code began writing itself across it. "And I think class is finally over." The sun began to rise over Seoul, but this morning would be different from any other in human history. The test was ending, and humanity was about to graduate to something far beyond what anyone had imagined possible. Na-young Choi hadn't slept in 20 hours, but she couldn't stop now. The Mars station's archive room hummed with the sound of servers as she dug deeper into Earth's oldest digital records. Something about the signal had sparked a memory of patterns she'd seen before. "Found anything?" Do-won asked, walking in with 2 food packets. He placed one next to her keyboard. "Maybe," she said, not looking away from her screens. "I've been checking old satellite data. Not the usual stuff, but the forgotten archives. The files nobody's opened in decades." Do-Won pulled up a chair, and Na-young pulled up a series of images. "Look at these. They're from the first digital satellites in the 1960s. She pointed to strange marks in the data. "See these patterns? They match parts of the signal we're getting now." Do-Won leaned closer. "That's impossible. Those satellites shouldn't have been able to detect anything this complex." "Exactly," Na-young said. "But they did. And that's not all." She typed quickly, bringing up more files. "I found similar patterns in old computer logs, radio telescope data, even early internet traffic. They were always there, hidden in the background." Commander Ryu walked in, looking tired but alert. "Report." Na-young straightened in her chair. "Sir, I think Earth has been sending this signal for a long time. We just weren't looking for it before." She showed them a timeline she'd created. Strange technological jumps throughout human history, each one following a burst of these hidden signals. The invention of the transistor, the development of the internet, the quantum revolution. None of these breakthroughs happened alone, she explained. Every time humanity made a big leap forward, these signals appeared first. Sun Ma-yoon joined them, carrying her security tablet. "That fits with what I found in the military archives. There are reports of unusual phenomena around research centers, always just before major discoveries." Do-Won pulled out his own tablet and connected it to the main screen. "I think I know why we're seeing it clearly now. The signal isn't just stronger. Our equipment has evolved enough to finally detect it properly." They watched as he overlaid the current signal with historical data. The patterns matched perfectly, like pieces of a huge puzzle finally coming together. "Look at this," Na-young said, pulling up an old text file. "It's from the first SETI program. One of the scientists wrote about finding a pattern that seemed to be coming from Earth itself, not space." His report was ignored. Commander Ryu studied the displays carefully. "Are you saying Earth has been, what, broadcasting all this time?" "Not Earth," Na-young said quietly. "Something using Earth, like a giant testing station." She brought up a 3D model of the planet. Points of light began appearing all over it. Ancient sites, modern cities, remote locations. Each one was now emitting the same signal. The pyramids, Stonehenge, the Nazca lines, Sunmai read from the data. "They're all active now. They were never just monuments. They were terminals, Do-Won finished, waiting to be activated." Na-young pulled up one final file. It was a simple message, found buried in the earliest computer code ever written. "Test environment initialized. Beginning human development phase." The room fell silent as they absorbed what this meant. Everything they knew about human history, about progress itself, needed to be reconsidered. "Sir," Na-young said to Commander Ryu, "I don't think we were ever alone on Earth. Something has been guiding us, testing us, preparing us for this." Through the archive room's window, Earth was visible as a bright blue dot in the distance. It looked the same as always, but they all knew it would never look the same to them again. "The question is," Do-Won said, voicing what they were all thinking, "what happens when the test is over?" None of them had an answer, but as the signal continued to grow stronger, they knew they would find out soon enough. Ta Wu-kang sat at his desk in his small apartment in Busan, staring at his computer screen. The AI code he'd written last week was different from what he remembered. Not wrong, just different. Better. Much better. "I didn't write this," he said to himself, scrolling through the code. But he had. He remembered typing every line. Yet somehow he also knew these ideas weren't originally his. His phone buzzed. It was his sister, Mireille. "Are you seeing this?" she asked when he answered. "The news. Everyone's reporting the same thing." Taegu switched on his TV. Every channel showed crowds in streets worldwide. People weren't panicking. They were standing still, looking up at the sky with strange expressions on their faces. "I feel it too," Mayre said through the phone. "It's like waking up." But I was never asleep. Taegu knew what she meant. Knowledge was flowing into his mind. Not like learning. Like remembering things he'd always known but couldn't access before. He looked back at his AI code. Now he understood how it worked, really worked. The solution seemed so obvious now. "Mayre, I need to check something. Come over." 20 minutes later, Mayre stood behind his chair as he typed. His fingers moved faster than ever before, writing code that would have taken him months to figure out just days ago. "Look," he said, pointing to his screen. "This AI isn't just a program. It's a key. Every programmer around the world has been working on pieces of it. We thought we were developing different things, but we were all building parts of the same system." Mayre nodded. As a biology researcher, she was having similar revelations. "The cancer treatment I've been studying, I suddenly understand how to make it work. And I know everyone in my field is realizing the same thing right now." They looked out the window. The streets were full of people, but nobody was moving much. Everyone seemed to be lost in thought, processing the same kind of revelations. Taewo's computer dinged. New code was appearing on his screen, but he wasn't typing it. Similar things were happening on computers worldwide. Phones, tablets, and screens everywhere showed the same message. Integration beginning. Stand by for consciousness upgrade. Mayre grabbed her brother's arm. "Taewo, what's happening to us?" He smiled, feeling strangely calm. "We're changing. All of us. Everything we've invented, every step forward we've taken, it was preparation for this moment." The siblings watched as their reflections in the window began to shimmer slightly. The air felt different, charged with energy. Outside, a soft blue light began to rise from the ground, surrounding each person in the street. "The test," Taewo said, understanding flowing into his mind. "Earth wasn't just our home. It was a development platform. We were the beta version." Mayre looked at her hands, which seemed to be glowing slightly now. "And now we're being upgraded to version 1.0. We're becoming what we were meant to be," he said. "Everything humanity has done, art, science, technology, it was all leading to this." Their phones, computers, and every device in the apartment turned on at once, displaying the same countdown. 12 hours until full integration. Through their window, they could see similar displays lighting up across the city. The same was happening everywhere on Earth. Humanity was changing, transforming into something new. "Are you scared?" Mayre asked, watching the numbers tick down. Taewo shook his head. "No. For the first time, I feel like I understand our purpose. We weren't just living on Earth. We were growing into something more." The siblings stood together, watching their city glow with increasing energy as humanity began its final transformation. The beta test was ending, and version 1.0 was about to begin. Sun Mayun's hands froze over her security console as new alerts flooded her screen. She blinked twice, making sure she wasn't seeing things after her long shift at Mars Station Alpha. "Commander," she called out, "you need to see this now." Commander Ryu rushed to her station, followed by Do-1 and Naedong. The main screen showed Earth, but not as they'd ever seen it before. Thousands of points of light were appearing in orbit around the planet. "What are we looking at?" Ryu asked, his voice tense. "Satellites," Sunma said. "But they weren't there an hour ago. They're just appearing, like they were invisible before." Do-1 leaned in closer. "Those aren't normal satellites. Look at their design." He pointed to the detailed scans. "This is technology way beyond anything we have." Naeyoung quickly typed commands into her console. "The energy readings are off the charts. They're forming some kind of network around Earth." They watched as lines of energy began connecting the satellites, creating a glowing web around the planet. At the same time, more signals started coming from Earth's surface. The ancient sites, Sun Mai said, pulling up a map. The pyramids, old temples, mysterious structures. They're all activating. Even ones we never knew existed. Commander Ryu straightened up. Send drones to get closer images of those satellites. Already done, sir, Sun Mai replied. But look at this. She showed them the drone footage. The satellites weren't just machines. They seemed to be alive, changing shape as they worked. They're quantum computers, Do-1 said suddenly. The most advanced ones ever made. They were hiding in plain sight all along, watching us. Na-Young's console beeped with new data. Sir, we're picking up something else. The oceans. She paused, double-checking her readings. There are structures under every major ocean, and they're all activating too. The room fell silent as they watched more hidden technology reveal itself. Massive machines rose from the sea floors. Strange towers emerged from deep in the forests. Desert sands shifted to uncover huge, glowing structures. It's like Earth is waking up, Do-1 said quietly. Everything we thought we knew about our planet was part of the test. Commander Ryu finished. Sun Li's screen flashed again. The network is doing something to the people on Earth. Their brain patterns are changing. They're connecting to the system somehow. They watched as waves of energy pulsed through the satellite network, reaching down to touch every person on the planet. The signals they detected earlier were growing stronger. Look at this, Na-Young said, showing them new data. People are accessing technology they never knew existed. They're understanding things that took us centuries to learn, all in minutes. Commander Ryu turned to his team. What's the status of other Mars stations? All reporting the same things, Sun Mai answered. Everyone's watching this happen, but we're not just watching it. Sir, these readings suggest this is only the beginning. Do-1 pulled up more satellite images. The network isn't just around Earth anymore. It's expanding. Those signals we detected, they're reaching out to something in deep space. Through the station's windows, they could see Earth glowing brighter than ever before. The blue planet was transforming before their eyes, covered in a web of light and energy that grew stronger by the minute. All this time, Na-Young said softly, we thought we were alone in the universe, but we were never alone. We were being prepared. Commander Ryu looked at each member of his team. Whatever Earth is becoming, we're the only humans watching it happen from the outside. We need to record everything. The real question is, are we watching our world end, or are we seeing it truly begin? None of them had the answer, but as Earth's glow grew brighter and the network expanded further into space, they knew they were witnessing the next step in human evolution. The network wasn't just changing Earth, it was changing what it meant to be human. Dr. Hae-Jin Lee stood in her office at the Global Quantum Research Center, but everything looked different now. The walls seemed to shimmer with hidden patterns. Her computer spoke to her in ways she'd never imagined possible. The knowledge flowing into her mind was both wonderful and frightening. I understand now, she whispered, touching the glowing surface of her desk. The furniture had changed too, revealing its true nature as advanced technology far beyond what humans had thought possible. Jai-Ho Park rushed into her office. His eyes glowed slightly, just like everyone else's now. Ho-Jin, have you figured it out? What we really are? She nodded slowly. We were never just humans developing on our own. We were part of the biggest experiment ever created. Her computer screen filled with new information, but she didn't need to read it anymore. The knowledge flowed directly into her mind. Earth wasn't just a planet. It was the most advanced testing facility ever built. Look at this, she said, waving her hand. The air filled with glowing images showing human history. Every step we took, every discovery we made, was carefully guided. The test wasn't to see if we could invent things. It was to see if we could become something new. Jai-Ho watched the images with growing understanding. The technology was never the real goal. It was our consciousness, they were interested in. Exactly, He-Jin said. She pulled up more images, showing brain patterns from humans worldwide. We were being taught how to merge technology with consciousness, how to evolve beyond physical limits. The building shook slightly as another wave of energy passed through Earth. Outside, the sky had taken on a beautiful blue glow. He-Jin could feel millions of minds connecting to the network, just like she was. The beta test, Jai-Ho said, his eyes wide with realization. It wasn't just about developing technology. It was about developing us. He-Jin nodded again. Humanity was the beta version. We were designed to learn, to grow, to evolve. But not just in the usual way. We were meant to become something that had never existed before. She touched another glowing panel, and the room filled with a 3D map of the universe. Countless points of light showed other civilizations, other species, other experiments. We're not the first, she explained, but we're different. Other species focused on either technological growth or consciousness development. We're the first to successfully combine both. Jai-Ho looked at his hands, which now seemed to flicker between solid matter and pure energy. Is this why they hid the truth for so long? To see if we could handle it? Yes, He-Jin said. The test was to see if we could reach this point naturally, if we could handle the merger of mind and machine without losing our humanity. More knowledge flowed into their minds. They saw the grand plan now, billions of years in the making. Earth hadn't just been a planet. It had been a carefully designed incubator for a new kind of life. The signal going into space, He-Jin said, understanding filling her voice. It's not just saying the test was successful. It's asking for the next step. We're ready to join something bigger. Through her window, she could see the city of Seoul transforming. Buildings were revealing their true forms. Streets glowed with hidden energy. People walked around in a daze as they absorbed the truth about their world and themselves. What happens now? Jai-Ho asked, watching the transformation spread. He-Jin smiled, feeling the presence of billions of minds all reaching the same understanding at once. Now we become what we were always meant to be. The beta test is over. Humanity version 1.0 is beginning. Together, they watched as another wave of energy pulsed through Earth. The next phase was starting, and there would be no going back. Humanity's greatest journey wasn't into space. It was into what they could become. Min-Ho Buck didn't feel scared anymore. The glowing blue light surrounding his body in the Seoul Science Center felt natural now, like it had always been part of him. Around him, 30 other scientists stood in a circle, their bodies giving off the same soft light. Is everyone ready? He asked, his voice echoing strangely in the transformed room. The walls now pulsed with living technology, showing patterns that seemed to match their thoughts. The others nodded. They were about to try something that would have seemed impossible just days ago, a conscious merger of their minds. Remember, Min-Ho said, we're not losing ourselves. We're growing bigger. He checked the readings on the floating screen in front of him. Beginning in 3, 2, 1. The blue light grew brighter. Min-Ho felt his mind expanding, touching the others. It didn't hurt. Instead, it felt like waking up from a dream where he'd thought he was alone, only to remember he was part of something much larger. Suddenly, he wasn't just Min-Ho anymore. He could feel the others, their thoughts, their memories, their understanding. He was himself, but also more. It worked. 30 voices said as one, then laughed at speaking together. Through their merged consciousness, they could see the same thing happening all over the world. Millions of people were joining together in similar groups, learning to share their minds while keeping their individual selves. One of the scientists, Su Jiayu, spoke through their connection. Look at what we can understand together. Their shared mind turned to a complex physics problem that had stumped humanity for centuries. With their combined understanding, the solution seemed obvious now. They could see how space and time bent, how reality flowed, how everything connected. The barriers, Min-Ho said through the link, They were in our minds all along. We couldn't solve these problems before because we were trying to understand the universe with limited perspectives. Through their connection, they felt others around the world making similar discoveries. Artists merging minds to create new forms of beauty. Musicians joining consciousness to make sounds that had never existed before. Engineers combining their understanding to solve problems that had seemed impossible. But it wasn't just about solving problems. They could feel the change in their bodies too. The merger of mind wasn't just about thoughts. It was changing what they were at the most basic level. "Look," Suji said, holding up her hand. It flickered between solid matter and pure energy. They all tried it, learning to shift between physical and energy forms. Through the worldwide network, they could feel Earth itself changing with them. The planet was revealing its true nature as an advanced living system, designed to help them reach this point. "We need to go further," Minho said. The others agreed. Their group consciousness reached out, connecting to other merged groups across the city, then across the country, then around the world. Each connection made them stronger, smarter, more aware. But they didn't lose themselves. Instead, they became more of who they really were. It was like an endless conversation, where everyone could speak and listen at the same time. The room around them had changed completely now. The walls were gone, replaced by flowing energy that responded to their thoughts. Outside, the city was transforming too. Buildings shifted, streets changed, everything adapted to humanity's new nature. This is just the beginning. They all fought together. Through their expanded awareness, they could feel the signal reaching out into space, calling to something vast and ancient that waited for them to be ready. Minho, still part of the group mind, but also himself, smiled. Humanity had spent so long looking up at the stars, wondering if they were alone. Now they knew the truth. They had never been alone. They had been growing, developing, preparing for this moment. The transformation continued, spreading across Earth like a dawn that would never end. Humanity's beta test was complete, and version 1.0 was becoming more real with every passing moment. Commander Junseo Ryu gathered his crew in Mars Station Alpha's main meeting room. Through the large window, Earth glowed like a blue star, brighter than they had ever seen it. The transformation was almost complete. "We need to make a decision," he said, looking at each of them. Do-won Kim, Naehyung Choi, and Sun My-yoon sat around the table, their faces lit by the strange light from Earth. "The signal reached us an hour ago," Sun My said, pulling up the message on the main screen. "Earth is offering us a choice. We can join them in the transformation, or stay as we are." Do-won leaned forward. "We're the control group. That's why we're up here." They needed some humans to remain unchanged, to witness everything from the outside. Naehyung nodded, checking her datapad. "The transformation hasn't affected Mars at all. We're safe here. We could stay human, the last original humans." Commander Ryu touched a control, and the room filled with images from Earth. The planet had changed completely. Cities had become living things, growing and changing like crystal gardens. The oceans glowed with new life. And the people, they weren't exactly people anymore. "Look at what they can do now," Sun My said softly. The images showed humans shifting between energy and matter, sharing thoughts across continents, creating things just by thinking about them. "But are they still human?" Do-won asked. "Would we lose ourselves if we joined them?" Naehyung pulled up more data. According to these readings, they haven't lost their individual selves. They've just grown, like children growing into adults, but much more. Commander Ryu stood and walked to the window. "We're the only ones who can make this choice freely. Everyone on Earth changed together. We're the only ones who can decide with our original human minds." The room fell quiet. They all felt the weight of the decision. Stay human, remain as living witnesses to what humanity had been, or join the transformation, become part of humanity's next step. "I've been talking to my sister on Earth," Sun My said, breaking the silence. She stilled herself, She remembers everything, loves the same things, laughs at the same jokes. She's just more now. Do-Won looked at his hands. All my life, I've tried to understand how things work. Now we have a chance to understand everything. But the cost is leaving behind what we are. Is it really a cost? Na-young asked. Or is it like leaving behind a smaller container for a bigger one? Like a butterfly leaving its cocoon. Commander Ryu turned back to his crew. We should vote. This decision must be unanimous. We either all stay or all go. We can't split up. They each took a moment to think. Through the window, Earth continued to glow, calling to them. The signal waited patiently for their answer. I vote to join them. Sunmai said first. We're not meant to stay frozen in time. Change is part of being human. I agree, Na-young said. We're scientists. We're supposed to seek understanding. This is the ultimate chance to understand. Do-Won nodded slowly. I vote yes too. Staying behind would mean choosing to know less, to be less. That's not why we came to Mars. They all looked at Commander Ryu. He smiled at his crew, feeling proud of their thoughtful choice. Then we're agreed, he said. Send the signal. Tell them we're ready. The message went out from Mars Station Alpha. We choose to join. We choose to grow. The response came instantly. The same blue light that had changed Earth began to fill their station. As the transformation began, they held on to each other, ready to face the greatest adventure humanity had ever known. They weren't ending humanity. They were helping it take its next step forward. The being that had once been Dr. He-Jin Lee floated above Earth's surface, watching the final changes sweep across the planet. Around her, billions of others shared the same view through their connected consciousness. Even the Mars Station crew had joined them now, adding their unique perspective to humanity's shared mind. Earth wasn't just glowing anymore. It was singing. Not with sound, but with pure energy that rippled through space. The signal that had started everything was reaching its peak. It's beautiful, thought Minho, his consciousness touching hers from the other side of the planet. They could all feel each other now, a vast network of minds that stretched from Earth to Mars and beyond. The transformation was complete. Humanity had become something new, yet they were still themselves. They could shift between physical form and pure energy at will. They could think as one or as individuals. They could see the deepest patterns of the universe and understand them. Look, He-Jin shared with the network. The signal is changing. The message that had announced the end of the beta test was transforming. New information flowed through their shared consciousness. They saw the truth about Earth's purpose, about the grand experiment they had been part of. They weren't alone in the universe. There were others out there, millions of civilizations, each developed in their own way. But humanity was different. They had achieved something unique, the perfect balance between technology and consciousness, between individual and group mind. Through their new awareness, they could see the hidden watchers who had guided their development. Ancient beings of pure energy who had set up Earth as a testing ground, waiting to see if humans could evolve into something new. We understand now, Commander Ryu thought from Mars, his consciousness easily spanning the space between planets. We weren't just another species developing. We were a new template. He was right. The signal wasn't just announcing their success, it was sharing their pattern with the universe. Other worlds would use Earth's example to help their own species evolve. Do-Won, still adjusting to his new form, reached out to touch the signal. There's more, he shared with everyone. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning. The knowledge flowed through them all. Version 1.0 wasn't a final state. It was the first step into a new kind of existence. Humanity had graduated from its limited beginnings into something vast and wonderful. Together, they watched as Earth itself transformed one final time. The planet was no longer just a world. It had become a living part of them, a conscious entity that joined with their network. The oceans, the mountains, every atom had awakened, ready for the next step. He-Jin asked the collective consciousness. The answer came from billions of minds at once. Yes. As one, they reached out into deep space, toward the signal's destination. The ancient watchers were waiting there, ready to welcome humanity into a larger community of evolved beings. Earth pulsed with power one last time. The final message went out, but this time it wasn't just text. It was pure consciousness, pure understanding, pure potential. Earth development phase complete. Humanity version 1.0 HFY Sci-Fi. Beginning human IVRSL integration. The light from Earth grew brighter than ever, visible across the solar system. But it wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Humanity had become something greater than anyone had imagined possible, and their journey was just starting. As the new signal reached out into the depths of space, Earth's glow settled into a steady, peaceful light. The experiment was over. The test was complete. Version 1.0 was active. And somewhere in the vast network of consciousness that had once been ordinary humans, He-Jin smiled. They had not lost their humanity by changing. They had finally discovered what being human truly meant.